Medjool. The medjool originates from Morocco and is often called the king of dates. It was cultivated for centuries in the valleys of the Atlas Mountains and along the Draa River. For most of that history, it was an exclusive fruit, reserved for Moroccan royalty and high-ranking guests. The palms that produced it were carefully guarded, and ordinary people rarely tasted them. That exclusivity shaped how the date was handled and perceived, which partly explains why it's still positioned as a premium product today. In the early 1900s, a disease called Bayeux disease almost wiped it out completely in North Africa. The only reason we still have medjool today is because a few healthy offshoots were taken to the United States in 1927 and replanted. That's how it spread and became so popular, especially in places like California and Arizona. Medjool is sweet and soft, with a lot of natural sugars like glucose and fructose, which give it that deep honey and caramel flavor. Unlike drier dates, it stays moist even when fully ripe, so it needs more careful handling. Because of their moisture content, medjool dates have a shorter shelf life than most cultivars and are typically sold refrigerated. People use them in smoothies, stuff them with nut butters or blue cheese, press them into energy balls, or just eat them as they are. Deglet Noor. The Deglet Noor is the most commercially traded date in the world, and unlike the soft and rich medjool, this one is lighter and a bit firmer. It's semi-dry in texture and its flavor is mild and delicately honeyed rather than intensely rich. It doesn't overwhelm other ingredients and works beautifully in cooking, baking, and salads. Because of its dryness, it keeps well without refrigeration, making it practical for export on a global scale. The name translates from Arabic as date of light, a reference to the way the fruit becomes almost translucent when you hold it up to the sun at the right stage of ripeness. The golden amber flesh glows. Deglet Noor originates from the Saharan oasis regions of Algeria and Tunisia, particularly the Zaban area near the Algerian town of Biskra. This is some of the harshest landscape in the world, with extreme heat, minimal rainfall, and alkaline sandy soils. Yet, date palms thrive there, and Deglet Noor thrives in particular. The Algerian and Tunisian varieties are still considered the benchmark quality, though the cultivar was introduced to California in the early 20th century and now accounts for the majority of American date production as well. It's also a bit different nutritionally. Deglet Noor has more sucrose compared to softer dates, which is why it feels firmer and tastes less intense. Ajwa. The Ajwa date grows almost exclusively in and around the city of Medina in Saudi Arabia, the second holiest city in Islam, and it's mentioned in several hadiths attributed to the Prophet Muhammad. These dates are small, round, and very dark, almost black. People often call them the holy date because they are mentioned in religious teachings and are believed to have protective and health benefits. Their flavor is shaped by the volcanic soil in the region, which gives them a slightly spicy, rich taste. The skin is thin and wrinkled, and the inside is dense and soft but not too sticky. Compared to the medjool, they are less moist, and compared to Deglet Noor, they feel smoother. The flavor is deeper and more complex, with hints of dark chocolate, molasses, and a light herbal finish. Ajwa dates are grown in limited amounts around Medina, so they are usually more expensive than most other dates, sometimes even more than medjool. They are often given as gifts, and many people look for them because they are seen as wealthy, with good amounts of antioxidants and fiber. In the past, they were even mashed and used to help babies transition from milk to solid food. There are also different types within the Medina area, and some grown in higher parts of the city are especially valued for their stronger flavor. Sukari. Sukari means sugary in Arabic because it's one of the sweetest date varieties in the world, with a flavor profile dominated by caramel with floral undertones and richness. It's produced primarily in the Al-Qasim region of Saudi Arabia, a province that takes enormous pride in its date culture, and within Saudi Arabia, sukari is widely considered the most prestigious locally grown cultivar. It's frequently eaten at the rutub stage, which is the semi-ripe phase just before a date reaches full maturity. At that point, the sukari is golden yellow, still slightly firm with a gentle crunch, and the sweetness is vibrant rather than dense. The skin is thin and delicate, and the flesh has a crumbly, almost cookie-like quality that's quite different from the chewy softness of a fully ripened date. As it continues to ripen, the color deepens to amber, and the texture becomes softer and more yielding. Fresh sukari doesn't travel well because of its delicate skin and high moisture content at the rutub stage. When you find good sukari abroad, it tends to be the dried or processed version, which is still good but doesn't fully capture what makes the fresh fruit so unique. It also has minerals like iron and potassium, so it's often seen as a healthier option compared to processed sweets. Bari. While most date varieties are consumed primarily in their dried or semi-dried states, the bari is known for being eaten fresh at a stage called kalal. At this point, the fruit is fully grown but still bright yellow and crunchy. The taste is surprisingly fresh, kind of like a crisp apple or pear, with a light hint of coconut and honey. It feels more refreshing compared to the usual rich darker dates. This variety originally comes from the Basra region in Iraq. It was brought to the United States in 1913, and today you can find it as a seasonal treat in places like California, Egypt, and the Middle East. As it ripens further into the rutub stage, the bari loses that crunch and becomes soft, juicy, and almost see-through with a warm amber color. The inside turns very sweet and creamy with a flavor similar to butterscotch, and it kind of melts in your mouth. The skin also gets very thin and delicate, which makes it hard to transport, so you usually only see it fresh for a short time. Because they're quite small and round, bari dates are sometimes used as whole garnishes or plated on cheese boards. They're also eaten in Gulf countries as a table snack alongside coffee. Mazafati. Iran's mazafati is sometimes called the chocolate date because of its dark color and deep flavor. The flesh is very soft, high in moisture, and the taste is rich without being cloying. The skin is thin and easy to peel away from the flesh, and it tastes a bit like dark chocolate with hints of molasses and brown sugar, giving it a deep sweet flavor without being too sharp. This date is closely tied to old irrigation systems called kanets, which are underground channels that carry water from the mountains into the dry lands around Bam, a city in the Kerman province of southeastern Iran. That mix of mineral-rich water and the big temperature swings between hot days and cool nights helps give mazafati its strong sweetness and taste. In Iran, mazafati is one of the most widely consumed dates domestically, eaten as a snack with tea, served at breakfast, and used in sweet preparations including a traditional confection called ranjanak, which is a pressed date and walnut dessert layered with toasted flour, cinnamon, and cardamom. The combination of the rich dark flesh with the bitterness of walnut and the warmth of spice is very satisfying. Back in 2003, a major earthquake hit Bam and damaged both the farms and the old water systems. But farmers rebuilt, and today, mazafati is still a big part of Iran's date exports. Zahidi. Zahidi is one of the oldest types of dates people still grow today, going all the way back to early farming in ancient Mesopotamia. It has fed enormous populations across the Middle East for centuries. The fruit is medium-sized, oval, and golden to light amber in color when ripe. The texture is semi-dry and slightly firm. The flavor is nutty and less intense than most cultivars, which makes it very versatile. It's believed to have been cultivated in Iraq and Persia for at least 5,000 years, and some historians associate it with the date palm references in ancient Mesopotamian texts. The name itself may derive from the Arabic word for ascetic or modest, which fits the variety's character well. It produces prolifically and holds up to rough handling better than more delicate types, which made it invaluable in historical contexts where food needed to travel long distances. The lower sugar content compared to many premium cultivars means Zahidi is less sticky and processes more cleanly into date paste, date syrup, and dried date products. A significant portion of the global date processing industry relies on Zahidi for exactly this reason. When you buy date paste at a grocery store or date syrup in a health food product, it likely started as Zahidi. In Iranian and Iraqi home cooking, Zahidi shows up in stews and rice dishes where its mild character won't compete with bold spices. It's used to make dibis, the thick Iraqi date molasses that functions as a sweetener and condiment. Zahidi is also the variety most often pressed into date bars and energy products because its consistency and yield make it economically to work with at scale. Piaram. Piaram is widely regarded as Iran's most prestigious and expensive export variety. It mainly grows in the Hajiabad area in the south of the country, where the conditions are a bit different from typical desert farms. The trees get water from mineral-rich springs and grow under strong heat, which helps shape the fruit. The date itself is long and slim, with a dark brown skin that sticks tightly to the flesh. Because of that, it looks slightly wrinkled, but in a uniform way that makes it stand out from other dates with looser skin. It has a deep, rich flavor that reminds people of toffee and caramel, with a light cocoa kind of finish that stays in your mouth for a while. It's semi-dry, so the texture is chewy and a bit meaty, not too sticky or overly sweet. It also has a bit less impact on blood sugar compared to many other dried fruits when eaten in moderation. Since it only grows in a small region and needs careful hand sorting, it's considered a luxury product and is often more expensive than other dates. You will usually see it served with good tea or packed in high-end gift boxes because of its clean look and consistent size. Some say it was named after a legendary woman from the region, while others think it might connect back to Medina and older varieties that later developed in Iran. The tree itself is quite tough and can grow in salty soil where many other crops cannot, which makes it well-suited for the harsh conditions of southern Iran. Halawi. Halawi is a soft, very sweet date that comes from Basra in Iraq. It's usually small to medium size, a bit long in shape, with a thin golden brown skin. At first glance, it can look like a Douglas Noor, but once you bite into it, it's much softer and more moist. It also melts in your mouth, similar to a sukari. Ancient Mesopotamia, the civilization that developed between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers is what is now Iraq, was farming date palms at least 5,000 years ago. The date palm was so central to life in that region that it became a symbol of prosperity in Mesopotamian art. A stylized palm tree that shows up in relief carvings, cylinder seals, and temple decorations. The halawi is a big part of that long continuum. At its best, fresh halawi has a plush, yielding texture with enough body that it doesn't feel mushy. Unlike some varieties where the skin can become tough or papery as the fruit dries, Halawi tends to maintain a good consistency through different stages of drying. This makes it a reliable variety for producers who need consistent quality across longer storage periods. In the United States, Halawi was one of the early varieties introduced to the Coachella Valley in the early 20th century, alongside Deglet Noor and a handful of other Iraqi and Northern African cultivars. California researchers and growers were systematically experimenting with imported offshoots to find which varieties could adapt to the desert conditions. Halawi established itself as a capable producer in that environment and continues to be grown there today, though Medjool and Deglet Noor have overtaken it commercially. Thuri. Thuri is often called the bread date, and it comes from the dry desert regions of Algeria and the northern Sahara. Unlike soft, rich dates like Medjool, this one is made for survival. It's a true dry date with a firm, almost hard outer layer and very little moisture. The inside has a dense, almost flour-like texture. That's where the name comes from. In the past, nomadic Berber and Arab tribes relied on it as a main food while crossing the desert. Because it's so dry, it can last for years in simple leather bags without going bad, which made it perfect for long journeys where fresh food and water were hard to find. The taste is mild and nutty, with just a light sweetness. It doesn't have the strong caramel or honey flavor you get in softer dates. It's not the kind of date you eat for a juicy snack, but it is very useful in cooking, softening into a thick paste when soaked in water or milk, perfect for breads, cakes, and energy bars. Today, people who hike or spend time outdoors like it because it doesn't get sticky in the heat and gives steady energy thanks to its fiber and minerals. Sagai. The Sagai, also spelled Sagay or Sugai, is known for its two-tone look and different textures in one fruit. It mostly grows around Al-Kharj or Riyadh, near Saudi Arabia's capital. The top of the date is golden, dry, and a little crunchy, while the rest of it is brown, soft, and chewy. This makes eating it fun, with a snap at the tip and a soft bite in the middle. Sagai dates are mildly sweet with a taste like light brown sugar, malt, or a hint of molasses. During the harvest window, which runs roughly through the summer into fall, fresh Sagai is extremely popular in Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states. It's served at gatherings alongside Arabic coffee, which is typically lightly spiced with cardamom and sometimes saffron. The mild, slightly crunchy quality of the base pairs well with the bitter warmth of the coffee, creating one of the Gulf's most common snacking combinations. Sagai dates are graded carefully. The top grade needs each date to weigh at least 14 grams. Because of this, they are often used in luxury gift boxes in Saudi Arabia and the UAE. They ripen in the middle of the season, which makes them more expensive than early or late varieties. Kalas. In the United Arab Emirates and the eastern province of Saudi Arabia, the Kalas date is often called the golden standard. People say that once you taste a premium Kalas, you don't need to look for any other date. It tastes like a caramel and toffee combination with floral notes and a deep, almost syrupy richness that isn't too heavy. The color ranges from a golden amber to a deeper rust depending on the stage, and the texture is soft and luscious with a thin skin that integrates seamlessly into the flesh. Kalas are grown across several Gulf states, but the most celebrated comes from the Al-Asa oasis in the eastern province of Saudi Arabia and from specific valleys in Oman. Al-Asa is actually the largest oasis in the world, a UNESCO-listed agricultural landscape of over 2.5 million palms, fed by underground freshwater springs in the middle of the Arabian desert. Kalas palms are central to that landscape, and the dates they produce from Al-Asa's particular environment are often considered the best version. Oman's Kalas carries a slightly different character from the Saudi version, with some producers describing a more complex fruitiness in the background. Oman has its own centuries-old date industry and exports to the Indian subcontinent in particular, where Omani dates have been a familiar commodity since the age of Indian Ocean trade routes that connected the Gulf to South and Southeast Asia. It's also used to make high-quality date syrup called dibs, and in desserts like lukemat, which are fried dough balls covered in syrup and sesame seeds. Hayani. While places like the Arabian Peninsula and the Maghreb are famous for dried dates, Egypt grows the most dates in the world, and the Hayani is its most famous fresh one. It comes from the fertile Nile Valley and is a big, long date that people usually eat fresh or semi-ripe. You can spot it by its dark red to almost black skin and soft, juicy interior, which holds way more moisture than dried desert varieties. The flavor of Hayani is milder and less sugary than most cultivars, with a gentle sweetness and a subtle tartness. Unlike sweet dried dates like Medjool, it doesn't feel heavy or too sugary. Fresh Hayani dates are about 58% water, so they're usually frozen right after picking to keep them fresh all year. In Egypt, people eat them in salads, fruit platters, smoothies, or even stuffed inside meat where the subtle caramel flavor comes out without taking over. The Hayani palm often gives over 200 kilograms of fruit per tree. Skilled palm climbers pick them using traditional ropes. The name Hayani comes from the Arabic word Hayyan, meaning the man, probably referring to the strong tree and fruit. Today, Hayani dates are a lighter, lower-calorie treat compared to sweet dried dates, and pack a good dose of potassium and magnesium.